Hello there, and welcome to Find Your Voice. My name is Joe Crammond, and I'm the host of today's show. Today, we have a very special guest, Dr. Stephen Barden. He's an advisor and coach, mentor to boards and top management on ensuring organizational culture and skills are aligned to achieve strategic goals. Stephen, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Thank you, Joe. I'm fine, thank you.
Wonderful. So what we're going to do today, Stephen, is going to ask you a few questions, and for our audience, just to find out a bit about you and your background and who you serve. And when you're ready, we'll get going.
Okay, I'm ready, apparently.
Perfect. So wonderful, Stephen. So if you had a business card, not that they are used so much these days, what would it say?
God knows, actually. Probably, I mean, what it does say is, coach, mentor, coach, strategic coach, mentor. That's what it says. Because, yeah, that's the only time I would use a virtual or other business card.
Fair enough. So tell us a bit about your business background and how you got started.
Well, I mean, I actually started. You don't want to go right back, but I started off as a broadcaster. I started off as a radio and television host first, and then ran my own business as a news correspondent in South Africa in the bad old days, supplying the BBC, etc., etc. And then moved to Britain and discovered that coming in from the outside was quite difficult to be a presenter. So I went into management, and I became managing editor of the company that I went into. First of all, television. Then I joined another company which you may know called Sky, and I was general manager of that. Joined their became chief executive of the technology company that ran all the underpinning technology for pay television, and basically went on and on, continuing climbing up into management until I decided at one stage that I'd done enough. Went back to school, as it were, qualified as a coach, and then did a doctorate in coaching. And what I do now is I have my own company, a bit of a nomad. I've got companies based in Britain. I'm based officially in Germany, and I also have a place in France. So I sort of flip between the three when I'm not seeing clients. And I basically advise and work with companies at that board and sub-board level. Sub-board level because I do like coaching high flyers as well as people who are right at the top, because it's just much more interesting, actually. And I also I coach them in terms of development, individuals. I work with teams, and I also work with making sure that the strategy of an organization and its culture are aligned, because I'm basically saying if your culture is not aligned to a strategy, it ain't going to work. If you're running a company of snipers and you're teaching them to be loving and gentle, it ain't going to work. So you better align the two, and that's what I do as well. And in the meantime, I've written a book and various other things as well.
That's fascinating. I imagine you've got some stories to tell on those TV personalities you've worked within television, I'm sure.
Probably, but I ain't going to tell them.
No, fair enough. No, I understand. Okay, so when it comes to advice, then, what do people seek you out for?
It goes in two ways. One is, what do I need? What do I, as a chief executive, need to do to stop blocking myself, or to move to the next set? Or what do we need to get a person who's on the board to be more effective? So that's at the individual level. And also the other one is, how do I make sure that we align everything that we have, culture, assets, tools, towards our strategy, to focus entirely on our strategy? Is it the right strategy? So it's basically working at an individual level and it's working at that organizational level where you're literally putting all your ducks in a row and making sure that they're aiming in the right place to mix about 20,000 metaphors there.
Yeah, no, it's important stuff. So who is your current target audience, would you say?
Current target audience are people who are currently leaders, organizational leaders of large, medium, small companies, because I do work with all of them, and individuals basically who really want to sharpen themselves and get up to the next step. Not just, by the way, it's not just a case of getting people to be more successful, quote unquote, but actually to fulfill themselves more, to actually do as well as possible for themselves,
Right,
and their organizations.
okay, that's interesting. So if you could describe sort of 3 hashtags or keywords that would describe your work, what would they be? What would be the 3 main words that you could use that would describe what you do?
I think mentor is one, because I've been in the business for a long time. So mentor is one. I think coach is certainly another one, and I think I like the word guide, actually, in many ways.
Okay, that's interesting. So when was the last time you had to leave something behind, and what was it and why?
I always have to leave something behind. When was the last time I had to leave something? Well, I had to leave Britain behind because I not had to, but I moved behind. I had to leave. I leave clients, not behind, but I leave clients, and they will leave me. So I do that. I think for me, it's. By the way, I'm not going to be overly pedantic on this one. I don't leave things behind. You move on. So yeah, I'm not, and I've always done that. I was a child of colonial parents, moved away from where I was born when in the colonies, moved away from South Africa because that's another story. But moved away from there, moved from Britain. So I'm always moving. So leaving behind, my friend, I leave behind quite a lot.
No, that's fair enough. It sounds like you've got the right sort of attitude for being able to move around and adjust to your climate and things like that. And yeah, that's really interesting. So, what keeps your audience up at night, would you say? So, the people you serve, what's their biggest concerns at the moment?
Well, the biggest concerns at the moment are the uncertainties. The uncertainties of both, not only of climate change, if you like, but how it affects their business. The uncertainties of distribution systems, which are now being completely disrupted by various things going on, including the war in the Ukraine and the various shiftings of supplies and things like that. Uncertainties of, is this, is my strategy, is my focus the right one, or is it going to be taken up and chopped up by AI or by a competitor that I haven't seen coming? It's all that. It's actually the uncertainty of being, are they alert enough, actually, is probably the key question that I think they're asking themselves. Am I alert enough? Do I know what's coming? And am I prepared for it?
No, that's useful advice. I mean, when was the last time you did something that scared you then, would you say, or that made you nervous?
I mean, the last time I did something that I was there was scared by, I suppose, was back in the old days in South Africa when I was working against the apartheid regime, which landed me in a lot of hot water.
Right.
But nervous, I get. It's not scared. It's a mixture of nervousness, excitement, anticipation, adrenaline. At any time when I'm about to do something new, when I'm about to see a new client, when I'm about to think out a new policy, when I sit down and write an article, I will, all that comes into play. All that comes into play.
So have you got a recent success story you could share with our audience?
I suppose because everything is a bit of a success and a bit of a failure. If you see what I mean? I've got, I think, many clients who would say to me that I've helped. I've also seen clients who I haven't been able to help because either they didn't listen or we didn't match or whatever. The nicest thing somebody said to me, which is, I suppose, a success quite recently, was thank you, and it was a chief executive, thank you for bringing back my enthusiasm and my energy.
Right, that's good.
Because she was feeling completely down, and the problems of the organization were, and said thank you for doing that. So yeah, I mean, I'm always wary about saying whether something is a success or not. It's the old adage of yes, a success. Let's see how far it goes.
Yeah, of course. So give us like the first month that you would be introduced to a new client. What would be your strategy looking at that first month? Have you got a framework that you would put together?
I do have a framework. Yeah, I do have a framework. The first thing I do if I'm working with an individual is make sure I know exactly why they want the coaching, and then I do a very, very long interview, 3 hours with them, in which I find out, and that's based on my book, by the way, this How Successful Leaders Do Business in Their World, with their world, which is basically finding out how they formed the way they manage their world. And the thesis of the book, of course, is how that people learn to manage their world and the basic relationship of power that they have with their world as kids, right from the start. So I go right back and I do this long interview, go and analyze it, and come back and discover what their what I call navigational stance, their sort of relationship with the world is. Once we've done that, I then know how they learn and what their blockages are in many ways. I also begin to know something about them. We then focus on what outcomes do they want by the time we finish the coaching for themselves and their organization. And then I form a sort of strategy to work them through that with the priorities. And then we start working. And the way I work with individuals as well as with organizations is we agree on a way forward or to try to go a way forward. And then they will go back in and try it out in bite-sized chunks in the organization, and then they will review it. So it's sort of everything is applied back into the business as quickly as possible.
Okay.
And adjusted as it goes along. So by the time you finish, you build up this body of knowledge and, more important, experiential knowledge that you experience back in the business. So the individual experiences that, and the organization experiences that, and and I'd experience that.
So would you say there's a common theme within the people that you coach that's the issue, that there's something that you find that's normally the thing that's the problem? Is there a common kind of trigger or something that you can pinpoint straight away within a very short space of time of speaking to these people?
There's no common theme. No, there's no common theme. They some of them want to come in and they feel that they personally are blocked or something is blocking them. They're getting in their own way, if you like. Others, the organization needs to be changed. Others just want to build an organization. There is, I'm exaggerating slightly here. There is a common theme of successful clients who make a success, and that is that they are prepared to not listen, because I'm not the guru here, they're not, but they're prepared to dialogue, they're prepared to discuss, they're prepared to make sure that they consider things rather than say, no, I've done this, it doesn't work. And also that they're prepared to understand that the work we do with them is not extra to their work, it is part of their work. So
right.
you need to see it as important a priority as actually going in and, I don't know, making cars or whatever they do in their work.
So, Stephen, it's been wonderful. Where do we find more about your expertise? Where would you point us in the direction to learn more?
Well, one is on my LinkedIn page, which is Stephen Barden Coaching or Stephen Barden, and the other one is on my my website www.stephenbarden.org. Stephen Barden, all one word, .org, not .com. Otherwise, you'll end up with somebody who's, I'm sure, much more illustrious than me in Canada. But stephenbarden.org is where the website is, and also on LinkedIn, which I do a lot of stuff on LinkedIn. I do articles on LinkedIn. I do quite a lot of posts on. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, as it were.
Oh, great. Well, I appreciate that, Stephen, and thank you very much for your time. And just to let our audience know that if you do wish to get into podcast guesting and share your story and your insights to industry leaders within your sector and offer them advice, join us at www.podcastguesting.pro and we can have a conversation to talk further. And Stephen, it's been wonderful, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you very much. Good to see you.
No problem at all. Thank you very much.